Welcome. Welcome to our first webinar, CSPs DDoS Mitigation 101, Deploying, Productizing, and Monetizing Security Services. Welcome everyone for being here. I know it's different time zones all over the world, so we want to thank you all for joining us. On behalf of Nexusguard, I am Josie Taylor. I'll be your moderator for this panel discussion. We have some great panel of experts with us this evening. We have Xenophon Giannis and Alex Hisa. I will introduce them in a little bit. For those of you that are in PTC this week, we do have a couple things going on. Definitely feel free to stop by our virtual networking lounge. We have access to our threat report, some informative video demos. We have a raffle drawing. And then tomorrow night, for those who are into trivia, we are hosting a virtual trivia night. So you can test your knowledge and wit. You can play individually or get some coworkers together, some friends, and join our trivia. The winner will receive an iPad. So that will be fun. And then Wednesday, we are doing another webinar, 10 ways for CSPs to leverage DDoS services to attract new customers and increase existing revenue. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panelists. First, we have Alex Hisa. Alex is with Nexusguard, and he is a veteran in the telecom tech business world, having worked for major corporations such as MCI, Quest Communications, TW Telecom, Level 3 and Above Net in sales, project management, and leadership roles. Since 2014, Alex has been involved in the cybersecurity space, working for companies like Black Lotus and Nexusguard as a DDoS cybersecurity specialist. And he also serves on the board of directors for the Information System Security Association in the Orange County chapter. So welcome, Alex. Next, we have Xenophon Giannis. Zen has over 18 years of experience in cybersecurity, building, creating, leading sales organization, driving regional B2B sales efforts. He was the SVP of sales for Black Lotus Communication, where he met Alex. Is that right, guys? Is that where you met?
Unfortunately.
So yeah, now he's with Nexusguard with tons of experience in DDoS mitigation and B2B sales. So guys, let's get into this.
Okay.
We're going to discuss today. Yeah, thanks. I'm excited. This will probably be about 30 to 45 minutes, more conversational, just to kind of flow everything. We're going to get into our first topic, which is the state of DDoS. I know a lot of things are going on right now, especially, with last year with COVID-19. Tell us a little bit about your threat report from last year and what you saw throughout the year, especially with DDoS threats that you think maybe was impacted from COVID-19 and just the year in general. Where are we now with the status of DDoS?
Okay, well, so actually, Alex and I were kind of discussing earlier, and we're going to do this a little bit different. We grabbed a couple of headlines from the news, and which fit right in line with our threat report results. So I thought that since it's timely, we would go over these and kind of discuss these a little bit as we get into what we're seeing. So the first one that just happened a few days ago, a free speech network app, not Parler. This one's called Wimkin. It was hit with a massive DDoS attack after being banned from Apple's App Store the other day. So what was happening is Parler got shut down. These guys were like the number two, I guess. They're a low number two, but they also got taken out of the App Store. So a lot of the users thought they were being turned off. They didn't know that they were being delisted. So they hit them with a huge DDoS attack. And well, they couldn't take them offline anymore, but it was kind of, they were upset. Let's just say that. So it's one of the things that we see in the threat market, where a lot of these attacks are based on political reasons, trying to make a point, ransom, extortion, or just for fun. Sometimes name cred. So so with what's going on, that just happened. I don't know if they're going to be able to get any money out of Apple. They're trying to blame Apple for the problem, but I doubt it. Then one of the other headlines from today, this is probably like a week ago, they're saying there's a rise of hackers using DDoS attacks to extort companies for ransom. Now, this isn't anything new. It's just kind of the gun that these guys are using is DDoS. But what's happening is they're able to, DDoS attackers, they're very smart. So they'll basically, evaluate a whole website, look at all the soft spots, and then maybe hit you a couple times, take you down for a couple minutes here or there, and then they'll say, "Hey, we took you down. Give us 3 Bitcoin, which is a lot of money, I guess today, 40,000 each." And then they'll just see how much they can get, and then otherwise they'll either hit them with the DDoS attack, or it's the same as the malware, ransomware attacks.
Yeah.
Except they're using DDoS instead of encrypting all your stuff. But that's on the rise, because I guess it's becoming way easier to send attacks now in larger scale. And the third one is that Citrix, their devices are being abused by DDoS attackers. Now, this is something we see all the time, and this is one of the things that we've seen in the threat report as well. A lot of companies, they don't lock down all their stuff. So what ends up happening is they get compromised by, there's an exploit. These guys, the attackers will find it. In Citrix's case, there's an exploit where they can hit these online servers and cause reflection attacks, where basically you send a gig in, 10 gigs comes out. Well, they didn't know. Actually, Citrix they denied it for a while, but then they finally had to come clean and say, "Yep, we have a problem. Everybody that's using our stuff, we have a problem." And so the DDoS attack, if you're using Citrix, you're not getting attacked. They're using you to create the attack. So you're enabling the attack, which is just as bad. I mean, like, if everybody used best practice on the internet and locked all their stuff down and patched all their stuff, there would be no botnets out there. So, so these were the 3 main ones. I mean, the other ones were just like, oh, attacks are getting bigger, that's normal. But these are the 3 ones that I thought were kind of timely. And, to see somebody like Citrix, admit that they're being used. Wimkin, I thought was just funny. But anyway, I thought you'd enjoy those, Alex, because you're quite a social network guy.
Right.
So
yeah, I follow
what? So I guess, yeah. So on the threat report, and Alex, you jump in here and tell me if I'm missing anything. I basically went back and looked at our threat report for the entire year, the last 4 quarters, and what we basically, obviously, DDoS is on the rise. We're seeing an overall increase in DDoS from year over year, 2019 to 2020. What we're seeing most recently. So in Q3, the trend that we were seeing the most, because of COVID, because everybody is at home, can't go to the movies, can't go to the bars, can't go. You can play World of Warcraft, and so
like Call of Duty.
Yeah, and so actually this is the last headline because it goes into there. But this is like Blizzard experienced a huge DDoS attack. They finally admitted that they were experiencing DDoS attacks on and off intermittently for the past few weeks or months, and that's why the gameplay has been slow and people haven't been able to get in. And that was basically our topic of our threat report for Q3, is that that because gaming is on the rise and a huge rise. So people usually used to think that, okay, like video gaming, like Candy Crush or World of Warcraft, that's just for fun. That's just for, that's just toy stuff. And the gambling, the online gaming, sportsbook, that's where the big money. Not true. The amount of money that's being generated from these the larger ones, what was it? The $159 billion market this year, just for gaming, not gambling. Gambling, on the other hand, their figure is like a $69 billion market. So it's like a third of the size, right? So, and we're talking legitimate gambling, right? So versus legitimate gaming. So there's way more money, selling, Farmville little, pigs or whatever they're selling, rather than, or tokens for that, than actually gambling. So because so in the world of gambling, these guys are used to like taking care of their stuff, and because they're used to being attacked. It's kind of a shady it's been a shady industry. But gaming hasn't, right? So they've always gone first to market to get their game out there. They want people to play it, cutting corners to just get it out on the platform, whatever, because you just want market share, you want eyeballs. But because of that, there has been, now that they're being a target of DDoS, and other exploits, whether it's application or not, they are finding out that that they're very easy targets. So you can take down a game by just DDoSing the login server. So nobody can log in. The game's up, but you can't get in. It's like you can't get into the party. They can DDoS the, so a game experience is several different servers, right? There's like probably a server where all your profile stuff is, and then the game engine and the characters or whatever. So any one of those interconnections can have a weak spot. So, one of the things that we recommend, one of our findings for the quarter was, and this goes across the board, but just using gaming as an example, would be that, you need to, a lot of these users, we find, not users, sorry, customers, what they're doing, what's the problem is that they don't necessarily plan out their site for resiliency, right? So, we recommend segregating and compartmentalizing, each app within your app stack, right? So if this is the game front door, this is the marketplace, this is this, make sure that's all segmented so that, like, if something breaks, you guys, you can corral it and fix it. Perform code reviews. Make sure that that guy you hired from from Fiverr late at night to finish your code because you needed to get your stuff up, that his code actually was good and didn't have that. He didn't just borrow it from somewhere open source and everybody knows how to get in. Right. Because people, most companies and most engineers that I know, they don't check the code until it breaks. So that's not a good practice. And then practice for like do fire drills, right? Like do DDoS drills or hacking drills to make sure, because I mean, if you're down one of these e-gaming events, that's millions of dollars of revenue that you're losing in that time period. And then identify single points of failure outside of your control. So you can build your site as great as you want, but there's certain things, you're not the internet, you're not all pieces of it. So if you know that this is a Achilles heel of your infrastructure, then go find a way to kind of boost that up. Like, for example, you'll never have enough bandwidth to get a terabit attack, but then you can come to someone like Nexusguard, another cloud-based provider, and get that fixed, so you don't have to keep buying bandwidth, right? So it's kind of like looking at these things holistically and then planning, right? And this is this is the gaming space, but this is a theme over and over. Right. Check your stuff, plan, evaluate, and then know where you have your weaknesses and where it doesn't make sense to try to do it yourself. Right. So
here's a question. If someone's at home, right, playing, I play Call of Duty, surprise. And, I'm playing, can one of these guys actually DDoS your house?
Yes, they do. And they do it all the time, but they DDoS you. Those are the easiest. You can go on TikTok right now and you'll see kids showing you in 30 seconds how to they have the bootloaders all set up and they find your IP from the game and they will target the modem at your house and they will knock you offline. Now, I just took Josie out of the game and I thought that was funny because I'm 12. But the thing is, that might have caused a 1 gig DDoS attack, hit the router, and everyone on your street is down because that took the Comcast router out. And what we're seeing is a rise in regional ISPs because they don't need big bandwidth, right? You're at a house. What do you got? 50 megs, 100 megabits down. So they hit you, but they take out the whole street, or whatever's on that router. So, but it's very easy, and it's really me. Let's say you were talking smack to me in the game. It's me taking you out for just, you're out, out of the game, right? I mean, and that's really the only reason they're doing it, just for fun.
Right. Just to get the rocks off. And you can normally tell when there's a PC hacker on, and you can report them, but Alex, do you guys get calls from people saying, I got DDoS in my own home?
All the time, actually. It's funny because, we serve enterprise companies and we sometimes get calls from kids that are getting DDoS and saying, hey, can you help me? Because somebody's DDoSing me. I know who it is.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So then what do you tell them? You gotta go to your basically your telecom provider, and it starts at the top, right? And works its way
Yeah. You
its way down.
gotta call your ISP and see what they can do. Black hole. We're gonna talk about that, I think, in one of the
Yeah, let's
topics.
actually move into that one.
Yeah.
Yep,
Go
sure.
ahead.
Whoop, 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 whoop. Oh, what we got here? What do we got here? This is your
That's for one. Yeah, we can get to that later. Just those are just
okay. All right. So yeah, what are the different methods to mitigate these DDoS attacks? Like if something does happen, what are the mitigation policies?
Sure.
Alex,
So
you mentioned black hole.
yeah, so we'll go over them, and between me and Zen, we'll go over them. But basically, at the most basic level, which has been around for at least a decade or so, is the black hole. The proverbial black hole. More technically speaking, is the remote triggered black hole, and that can be based on source address or destination address. And essentially what you're doing is you figure out you're getting attacked by somebody. So you either block that somebody completely, or you block yourself or the attacked, the victim, right? In
Right.
either case, right? So what you're doing is you're trying to prevent damage or collateral damage. So you're trying to just hit where the attack is. The problem is, as soon as you black hole, you're not just black holing uh, illegitimate traffic. You're actually blocking everything, clean, legitimate, malicious attacks. So it's unfortunate, but there is damage, right? So you're basically accomplishing what the intended purpose was, which is to take you offline. So it's not really ideal, but for the lack of other tools, that was the best thing, right? So then they started evolving. There's a somewhat recent new development called BGP Flow Spec, and it gives more granular control of what can be blocked, when, and how. I'm not gonna get into that today. That's probably a whole webinar on that. And there's
Yeah.
plenty of people that do that. I'm not, between Zen and I will stay away from it. But examples of what you can do with that is, you can use source address, source port, destination source address, destination port, layer 4 stuff, packet specific items like, fragment length of the packets, etc. But basically, it gives you a little bit more granular control of what to block. But it's sort of like instruments in a car. You have with black hole, you just have the on and off switch, and you either kill the car or you don't. And then with the with the BGP flow spec, you have a few more knobs to turn on and off, and you have a little bit more control. But it's really not like that DDoS engine where you have 100 knobs that you can do to make sure that you're not just blocking, but you're actually mitigating, your scrubbing the malicious packets from the clean. So the whole point of DDoS protection is that you're still trying to maintain the traffic to go through, right?
So you have inline versus out of band.
Right. So yeah, so let me get into that. I'll go over one more type of method of mitigation, and that's when ISPs will purchase some kind of DDoS protection, and then they'll turn around and sell a dedicated internet access or a IP transit connection that's DDoS protected, right? So that means that it's clean. Only the clean traffic will traverse back to you as a customer, right? So, and then because most of these ISPs are buying either a cloud-based protection or an appliance, then the question of, well, should I use an appliance that's inline, or should I use one that's out of band, right? So inline meaning that, it's directly connected, all the traffic flows through your box to an appliance, and then it goes out the other way, but it goes in and out, inbound, ingress or egress traffic goes through the box. So it requires the machine to be pretty powerful. It's not necessarily inexpensive, but it has to be pretty powerful in order to, watch every packet that's coming through, and making sure that it's comparing against some kind of signature profile. And then, maybe even including machine learning, which we have as well, which learns along the way and says, well, that kind of smells like a bad packet, so I'm going to discard it. And then also because it's also looking at layer 7, then it has to have mechanisms to look at the certificates, right? The SSL certificate. So, it's complicated, but in essence, it's supposed to be real time, and it's supposed to not care how much bandwidth. But the reality is, and Zen can attest to this too, is that most of these type of boxes are sold to enterprise customers. The bandwidth is not that big, and it
Yeah.
can handle that type of thing. And SSL certificates and layer 7 are very predominant in enterprise environments. So you find those inline type of uh, 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 implementations in enterprise accounts, but also hosting companies, web hosting companies. They use some of those boxes by some of these appliance vendors. The out of band is simply a box that it could be a box or it could be a scrubbing center
Yeah.
that we provide, right? That is not necessarily directly connected to your network fabric, and it only engages in the event of an attack. So we
Gotcha.
monitor, for example, Nexusguard monitors all of our customers 24/7. As soon as we detect that, and that could be manually done, it could be automated. And as soon as an attack is detected, the redirection of the traffic occurs, and that's when we start scrubbing. So there might be a little delay there, a matter of seconds or minutes, depends on the complexity of the attacks. It could be a multi-vector attack. I think Zen covered that a little bit. But if there's a very complex attack, it might take a little longer for you to, identify, start mitigating. But usually, within minutes, it starts mitigating, not just detecting. So
Wow.
that's the difference between inline and out of band in a very high level way of speaking.
Right.
And then I think, do you want to add anything, Zen?
No, I was some of the points you went on. You're talking about the size of the attacks. We had 93% of all attacks, pretty much most of the year, were small. Were in the range of they're smaller than 1 gig to 10 gig, right? So,
Right.
really, that's what you need for most enterprise things like that. It's the ISPs that get hit with the larger because they have more customers. I mean, you're not going to have Josie's house isn't going to get hit with a 2 terabit attack because you don't need
Right.
to. But
Right.
so for some of these folks that you're talking about, that might be enough, right? If it's a small little attack and it needs to do a little like detection or mitigation, or you can react to, they'll give you at least the information you need, or they might mitigate some certain attacks. But yeah, I was just kind of we get so used to talking about the 100 gig attacks that you don't realize that the majority of them aren't that huge
Right.
on a day in and day out basis, right?
Right. Yeah. So, but just to clarify, when I talk about cloud-based protection, and I really mean there's a global scrubbing infrastructure that's
Right.
been put together specifically to scrub out DDoS attacks and only send the clean traffic back to the intended user or server. And there's basically in high level, there's only 2 types. There's the BGP redirect, where you're protecting a network, and you set up a BGP session, and the 2 networks talk to each other. As soon as there's an attack detected, you start redirecting traffic, and you announce the prefixes that have been affected through the scrubbing company provider, and then the clean traffic is sent back to you either via some kind of direct layer 2 connection or GRE tunnels, that sort of thing. There's also a different one, which you also see out there, which is the DNS reverse proxy redirect, where you're specifically protecting websites, applications, HTTP, HTTPS, and that's offered on an always on mode. And, you know, there's typically some kind of caching or CDN attached to that, but you're really focused on the protection of websites. And like Zen was saying, when you're trying to protect a game's portal where you sign up or sign in to log into a game, that's the type of protection you will typically see, which is a DNS reverse proxy protection. So those are the two type of cloud-based protections. And then a lot of ISPs, you know, what they're doing is they're doing a mix of an on-prem appliance to mitigate layer 7 attacks with SSL certificates, which is necessary for that type of protection. But also because the local appliances don't have a lot of capacity, and some of the attacks can exceed the total capacity that a provider might have, whether it's 10, 20, 40 gigs, then they need to have an insurance policy, like an global offload, what we might call, where you can push any attacks that are over a certain capacity or over a certain size, you can push it to the cloud. So when that happens, then the appliance stops, you know, the announcement stops going to the box, and instead it goes to the cloud, so that those type of volumetric attacks don't take out your network, so your other customers remain unimpacted, if you will.
Yeah.
So that's what I would call the DIY, do-it-yourself hybrid, right? Because you're sort of slapping it together. You have one appliance manufacturer, then you have one cloud, but you still need your team, and you still have some resources they have to put together in order to put that type of protection together. And then on the other side, there's what we call more of a true hybrid managed DDoS. And so Zen and I, or maybe Zen will talk about this towards the end, where we can do a little plug about Nexusguard's managed DDoS, which is pretty unique, actually. It's very interesting to hear about that. But those are, in essence, like the methods that you're going to find mostly in the CSP world, the ISPs, telcos, how they're protecting themselves from DDoS attacks.
Right.
Well, that's actually good segue into the CSP challenges. So what are some of the big challenges for CSPs?
Well, I would say this, that kind of what Alex was saying. So traditionally the CSPs, they're doing what Alex just mentioned, right? They're going out, but traditionally, if you're an ISP, CSP, you are buying DDoS for one reason. You're buying DDoS protection to protect your network, to keep it up. Because if somebody, like in the scenario I was giving you, somebody goes to DDoS you and takes down the router and the whole neighborhood goes down, that ISP has to now do service credits for everybody in the whole neighborhood, if they have that level of service. Or you guys might cancel because you're upset. And because, you know, because the network gets DDoS all the time, goes down, and, you know, we don't need to be on this network. So traditionally, it was the engineers would get it to protect the network from outages, or, you know, and preserve uptime. Meaning that if the number one way they did it before all this expensive DDoS hardware came out was by detection and black hole routing, or auto black holing, or you know, so they would, and basically you're like, look, Mr. Customer, you're getting attacked, not my problem, your problem. Our network's up, ha ha ha. And, you know, and it was kind of like, what did you do to get attacked? Because that was kind of like, what are you guys into? Like, you know, gambling, porn, what are you doing? So, you know, and that's kind of how it was. It was like a stigma of, because really that's who was getting hit. And, you know, the high risk people. And so now, skip ahead, it's become more mainstream. So now monitoring's got more robust, attackers have gotten smarter. Every ISP went out and bought some kind of hardware. Arbor was king of that because they had the best monitoring, the key monitoring device at the time that they ended up, bundling right in with the DDoS mitigation box they were creating. So you would buy this box, and most ISPs have enough bandwidth upstream to handle it, right? So they'd be able to mitigate their network. But once again, these boxes and everything was designed from the aspect of what problem are we solving? And we're solving the problem of when a DDoS attack comes in, how do you keep the pop up? How do you keep the customers up? And how do you keep the job, right? Right. And it wasn't like, oh, how do I sell DDoS to my customers? No, because even the customers didn't care. And so then now it's getting to the point where DDoS is a problem, but it's becoming more mainstream, and it's becoming more I would say segmented, right? So whereas before, it was really a couple different ways to DDoS. You'd either do a single DOS attack, or then like a distributed DDoS attack, a couple different vectors, UDP flood, whatever. And then the amplification attacks, where the reflection attacks, where they would reflect off somebody and gain momentum, like I was telling you before. Those started getting in, and now they're getting very creative, because every fix lends these guys to find a new exploit that will somehow or other we didn't think about it, right? Because the whole internet in general, it's a big sandbox. Everyone plays nice. You assume, I mean, if all the ISPs didn't want to play nice with each other, there would be no internet. They would take each other down. There's a lot of like handshakes that go on between the big networks. You'd think not, but to this day, like AT&T, Level 3, those guys, there's a lot of like mutual understanding that's not really written down anywhere. But now you're having these customers that are coming and they're saying, hey, I need you to protect me.
Yeah.
And or you're my ISP, protect me. Now, on the network side, that's a little easier because they already got the gear usually, and that's fine. But what was I going to say? So that from the I lost my train of thought. I saw that thing pop up, and then I was like, "What did he say? Who's asking us stuff?" The last thing I just said. What was the
challenges?
The challenges.
Right. Oh, yeah. So then, So then you're basically you're doing the big DDoS attack stuff. It's pretty easy. Okay, you have the IP numbers that they're on your AS number, they're on your thing, so you can mitigate the attack. You see it, you can mitigate it. It's big enough, fine. But then now you're having a whole new aspect, which is these smaller attacks. They're application based. So what is everybody hosting in the internet anyway, right? You're either hosting an app or something, right? A website, a web experience, or you're surfing. But if you're not able to surf and you get DDoS, who cares? But if you're not able to get your content out of your app out there, that's an issue for ISPs, because they're not set up to provide application layer protection because they're granular. A lot of these smaller attacks, which some of early in our threat report early in the year, we call it what they call it, the invisible killer, the silent killer. It's because most of these attacks come through. Sometimes they're a couple hundred megs, 10 megabits, whatever. They are specifically designed to take out a service, like something that an application would be running. Let's say it's a login server. Let's say it's if it's an e-commerce site, they take out the gateway between the shopping cart and the payment gateway. So they just took out your cash register, so everyone can go put stuff in their cart, but nobody can check out. So
you go to check out, you can't.
Yeah, but an ISP is not going to see that. They're not going to see that unless they're specifically looking for it. And the only way to specifically look for that is to have something inline, like with and that's why the proxy DNS is so useful, or having a box inline in front of them, or a virtual box that can see that kind of level of IP, because they have one IP in the mix. So a lot of times customers goes, I thought you were protecting me. Well, we are against layer 3, 4, the bigger stuff, this, that, and the other. And so now the challenge is, how do you explain to a customer that doesn't understand that we can protect you, but it's a different solution, and it's not included in your IP price, and this is what it would cost, or whatever. Or if it's in the cloud, because the same thing, cloud is just you're just getting a container to put your apps in that is being hosted. So you assume that the cloud is being protected, right? The cloud won't go down, but your apps are still exposed, because how are they going to protect your apps? unless they
Right.
provide some specific solution. So the challenge is, it's come a long way, but educating the customers and what should be expected and what's not, right? Because a lot of the times these ISPs, they just go, oh, we want to make our customers happy. Okay. The
Right.
challenge is, how do you make your customers happy and not like go broke in the process? And then either way, and how do you keep them happy? Because sometimes you're like, okay, we'll do that for you, and then they get hit, and it's not your fault. They're architected wrong. Like some of that other stuff I was telling you earlier, where they haven't checked, they have holes in their code. You didn't write their code, but they're like, how did you let the DDoS attack come in the first place? It was only 5 megs. I don't know. It looked like regular user traffic. We weren't looking for it. I mean,
Yeah.
so that's a challenge. But it's a double-edged problem, because if you don't try to fix it, then they're going to say, well, I need to go find somebody that will. So as long as somebody's telling what they want to hear, they're going to go. And so now you're losing revenue. And then when you're going after new customers, they come in and they bring that as a requirement. Do you have DDoS? I need DDoS XYZ. So the challenge that's facing it is, how do you meet these new set of requirements, right? So if you have financial customers, or you have e-commerce customers, or anybody that deals with any kind of money, or anybody that's regulated by some kind of organization, they have a requirement for compliance that they need to have DDoS strategy, right? All banks have to have a DDoS mitigation strategy in place. Whether it works or not doesn't matter, because the law wasn't written that way, but they have to have something. So if they buy a box and never turn it on, they have DDoS, right? So so some of them just do that for compliance. But that's the challenge. Like, how do you, so traditionally it was okay to kind of extend your protection to them, but even at that point, it's not really productized. It's like you're kind of like, you're just letting them borrow your protection a little bit, but you're not really, it's not set up to actually, profile them. Like, because everybody is running, I would be running something different than you would, than Alex would, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so that, go ahead.
You just brought up you brought up a great point about productizing, which is actually our next topic. So I'm just going to segue into that.
Well, before you go there, right? Because I think it's important to know that, it wasn't too long ago, right, Zen, that people would tell us, I don't get attacked. I don't need protection.
I don't get
And I'm not just talking about a small little gaming company. I'm talking about ISPs. They don't get attacked. So why do I need to invest money, resources to build a DDoS practice when I don't really? It's not my problem. Zen said that several times.
One of my favorite stories was when we were at Black Lotus, and there was some community website guys that were supposed to be, this was like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And these guys were, you could put a site up of like whatever your cause was, or, and then a lot of politicians were doing it. So these guys their customer was in England, and they were like, oh yeah, we never get attacked. We haven't been attacked ever. It's like they've only been around like 4 months. We've never been attacked. And then there was an election happening, and all of a sudden one candidate, and then seriously, they had our quote, and they go, oh, you guys are a little expensive. We don't need it. And then within, I swear to God, like a week, so we're down. Can you help us? We're like,
oh no.
They got hit because the election was happening. It was getting hot. And then that candidate was getting DDoS hard. And then they were like, and then they wanted us to fix everything for them. Like, well, what about this? What about that? Well, you're over mitigating. It's like, listen, guys, they didn't even have routers. They had switches. So you couldn't really like link in with them. And we're like, okay, this is why we wanted to do this in peace times. We could play, like practice. But yeah, it happens a lot now, and it depends. As your business grows, the chances of you getting DDoS go up, because every customer potentially is a target, and so it's
well, it's the changing of times right now. I think that DDoS protection is no longer an option. I believe for ISPs as well, not just the end user, but ISPs have to have that. They have to have the infrastructure to be able to protect that, and not just the infrastructure. They need the personnel, people that are experienced, not just network engineers, but DDoS analysts that can effectively, create a strategy for you to mitigate attacks. And so that's not cheap. That's expensive. For you to have a 24/7 DDoS SOC like we have, it's going to cost at least $500,000, just to maintain the personnel, and forget everything else that you need to do that.
But it's necessary.
Yeah, and and then the other thing that I'll say that's maybe not so much DDoS related, but what we see with ISPs, and this is from way back in the day when in 2000 or 1999s, and you and I were selling DS3s, and it was 45 grand to
T1s. I was selling T1s back
right?
then.
Yeah, DS3s was a premium. Nobody ever sold DS3. So if you sold one, it was $45,000. It was
Yep.
it was a winner. And now I have a 500 meg connection, fiber optic at $50 per month. So
Mhm.
we've come a long ways. But what does that do to ISPs? The revenue, the
Right.
ARPU, the average revenue per unit, or the
Goes down.
whatever you call average price per meg is decreased substantially, and is going down at a rate of 10, 15, 20% every year, right? So
Right.
what do you do when your revenue is shrinking, but the customer base remains the same or is not growing at the same rate, right? So you need to come up with new products, maybe. A lot of
Value-added
ISPs
bandwidth.
are exactly is value-added
Yeah.
bandwidth. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, we've seen this already, right? So back in the day, okay, so like Alex said, we were selling T1s, which is 1.5 megabits for about $2,500 a piece. I mean, I remember at one point Yahoo, when I was at Global Center, Yahoo was buying bandwidth from us, and they were getting a deal at $275 per megabit, and they were buying all of Yahoo traffic was 1.5 gig. I mean, that's just to give you, because that was just basically mail traffic, and so they were spending like $270,000 a month with us, and that was a lot. Today for that same package today, they'd probably barely pay 10 grand for it. Probably less than that. No, a gig, what would a gig cost? Nothing, right? So I mean, you have to find other services to augment. And so what happened when bandwidth started going down? I remember when bandwidth hit $35 a meg, and everyone's like, "That's the end of the internet." I'm like, $35 they started selling CDN services, right? Because that was value add. How do you get more money for bandwidth? Well, look, it's got CDN in it, and now what are you seeing? You're seeing the SD-WAN stuff come out, because that's value add.
Edge compute.
Yeah, edge compute. You're seeing, you're seeing the interconnection to cloud on ramp, or whatever they call it, and then endpoint security. All these things that you're using the network for, they're throwing in these services so they can basically get back to where they were, just on bandwidth.
Security.
Yeah. Well, security. Yeah. Like, I mean, but that was before. Before you could just give them the network. Now you have to put stuff on it to get to where you were before, right?
Yeah. Just to be at par with everybody else, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So back to the challenge. Like the challenge is this: how do you? I mean, is it your core competence to become an MSP? Maybe, maybe not. But like you said, you got to hire the guys. You got to know, because, I mean, the biggest fallacy is that DDoS, specifically DDoS, because DDoS is a chess game. You're playing against an opponent. You're not playing against CDN. You're playing against the internet because it's architected like crap, right? So it's like you're trying to get your stuff through the internet the fastest, most efficient way. DDoS, you have an opponent that's a human being. It's not AI. It's another human being that is sitting there strategically trying to hurt you. So it's not like you buy a firewall and you set it and forget it. It's something that has to. It's an active negotiation, basically. Like, oh, you tried this? Okay, well, try. I got you with that. Okay. Oh, I didn't see you. Well played. I mean, it's seriously, like, sometimes I see DDoS attacks. You're like, well played, bravo.
Yeah,
I mean,
checkmate.
I mean, sometimes you just got to give it to them. It's like, that was pretty smart. Yeah. I mean, you have kids that don't know what they're doing, and it's like script kiddies or whatever, but some of these guys are geniuses. So I mean, it's really not. It's not. So that's why you call it mitigation. You don't call it like saves everything. It's mitigation is best effort, right? Because you don't know. You don't know what, if you hit the 0 day. That's why they say the 0 day. When we were at Black Lotus, the 0 day attack we saw was the NTP flood. Never been used. And the guy was using, his name was Derp Trolling, and he was posting on Twitter, just laughing at everything he was taking down. And we had a couple customers that he was going after, and he put what was it? 121 or 421? I don't forget which one. It was one of the largest DDoS attacks at the time, and just teed off on us. And our, that customer went down, and we weren't ready for NTP. So 0 day attack, all bets are off. So we had to work with our upstreams, NTT, whoever else, and we blocked it. took us about an hour, and then we figured it out, and then we posted it out to like everyone shared, everyone like, hey, this is the new attack we saw. This is how you can solve against it. And oh, by the way, this is what you should be doing in your network so that people can't take, because people used to leave NTP protocol open because that's what network time protocol. Everyone wants to know what time it is.
It will open.
Well, yeah. So you know, yeah, they would just leave it open and boom. You know, so yeah, you know, there's always going to be something like that, right? That's why I say
Right.
the Citrix. The reason I use that Citrix story is because that's yesterday, and same kind of thing. They're using something that's
scary
out there.
version, right? And scary version IoT.
Yeah,
right. IoT.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, each one of your devices can be compromised. Now that the Androids and the Apples are being compromised, they're all becoming DDoS targets, or actually botnets.
All right. Well, let's move to
Yeah.
monetization.
I'm gonna, just for the efforts of time, because we are getting some Q&A, and we love your questions, and we'll get to the Q&A at the end. We just have 2 more topics, and then we'll get to all your questions and answers. So yeah, you know, you guys just touched on this. I mean, now that we know, you know, the big challenges, you know, what are ultimately, why should CSPs be looking at productizing or monetizing of DDoS? I mean, you really just touched on this, the productization and monetization of DDoS as a whole.
Well,
I
so
think
go ahead,
you
Alex.
know, if I
Alex,
can
I'll
just
start with you.
start. Yeah, so I would say there's many ways that the DDoS product is being productized today. You know, mostly by larger ISPs, telcos, but you know, for some of the smaller ones, I would say, and that also depends on which region. You know, South America, North America, Europe, whatever. What we're seeing is some of the larger telcos, they're definitely charging for it. They charge, I'll give you an example. That's not the only way that they do it, but there might be a port charge, like a DDoS port charge, whether it's a 1 gig or a 10 gig connection that you have as a downstream ISP, you pay for that. And then there's a usage charge that's based on the, you know, some kind of formula that is clean traffic, legitimate traffic versus attack traffic. And then at the end of the attack campaign, you owe this much money, you know, so you could go up or down, but at least you have that type of protection. And then the other one is where it's kind of a flat rate. You just buying blocks of attack traffic. So you might buy a block of 10 gig attacks or 50 gigs, 100 gigs, or whatever. But we also seeing that some ISPs are not charging for DDoS protection.
Oh, really?
Because
just because nobody else charges, you know.
Or they think.
So, yeah, so you're just trying to keep up with the Joneses, right?
Yeah.
If
they think they can't charge for it. They think their customers expect it, so they feel that they can't do it.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And it's very linear too, because you're only thinking about a network layer protection. You're not really thinking about the website protection, DNS protection. So there's so many different ways to productize this, but you know, we do see some of the larger ISPs, like I said, some of them outsource like a WAF protection, you know, for web application firewall, OWASP top 10 type of protection, you know, or a layer 7 protection, because like Zen was alluding to, most telcos, they really are focused on the network layer protection, not so much on the layer 7. That's something that traditionally we don't touch. So even today, they're outsourcing that type of functionality, even as a larger telco. So imagine the small telcos, they have no idea, you know, this
different. But the small telcos, some of them don't even have the proper tools to monitor their own network and see what's going on, let alone for their customers, right? You know, I mean, my favorite answer to the question is like, what do you guys do for monitoring DDoS? They go, we wait for the attack to hit. It's like, what?
Oh no.
Yeah, they do, and then they call their upstream, and then they just like start no routing. But that's not when you want to do it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, and we're not saying like, you know, I know a lot of people, you know, small ISPs, they're brilliant. The people that work there are extremely brilliant. The thing is, you don't have the resources. You need manpower. You need
Yeah.
a lot of people to run a successful cybersecurity practice, including a DDoS practice, right? So like I said, you have to have at least 5 people to run a SOC 24/7 just for DDoS, and that's going to cost you easily around $500,000 just to do that every year, right? So I think that to some ISPs, that's not really in the books, you
Right.
know. So how do you compete against the larger ones when you don't have the resources and you still have to play the game, because
Right.
every year that goes by, I think as we progress, it's no longer an option. It's you will have to have it.
Well, yeah. So basically, I mean, one of the things that we do when we talk to ISPs about helping them, some of them go, we're covered, we already have DDoS, which probably they have something, but that they probably don't have a full productization. And that's the thing. Most people don't even understand what they have. If you're an ISP guy, you're selling network and things like that, you're not used to selling the DDoS security. You don't really understand how it's productized, how you sell it, how to package it in. So one of the things we do is we first look at the market of what they have, what their existing customer base, and then we go, okay, what are you charging per meg or what's your average circuit price? Let's say it's $100 for a 100 meg circuit or something like that, or 500, but whatever. You can assume that there'd be a 25% increase to give clean pipe DDoS protected bandwidth, right? So you're saying, okay, 25% increase just out of the gate. I mean, just consider that a minimum. So then if an ISP takes all their customers that they're selling direct internet access to, or, a port or a pipe, and then just converted them to DDoS clean pipe, that's a 25% increase in revenue just with embedded customer base. Most customers will take it. And then if you add some other services, like we're saying, value add, if you add some portal services, because most ISPs only give you a portal to see what your billing is if you bursted, so that you don't have that kind of visibility. And then also, you can, so if you're just giving, so clean pipe mitigation is like, look, everything we give you over this pipe should be clean. There shouldn't be any DDoS in it. There's an asterisk there because, like I said, application protection, application stuff could probably get through because it looks like normal traffic. So, you might have to buy some of the other stuff to take care of that. But all said and done, most of the larger attacks over a couple hundred megs should be taken care of, right? And that's the number one thing that most ISPs sell, clean pipe. And then when you move on from there, then it's like, okay, you can do larger attack sizes. You can do global mitigation, because if it's local, that means anything coming local to the ISP. But then if let's say you have your own AS number, right? So now you're kind of going one step off of the network. If a customer has multiple ISPs upstream, now can you give them protection against not only your pipe, but whatever else they've got on the other side? Most ISPs won't or can't, but that's also a need, because traditionally also in ISPs, they won't protect downstream ASs. They'll only protect what's on their IP space. So if they're handing you a pipe, they're only going to protect their stuff. So so it depends. Like, so people understand that, and they can understand that. Okay, I could charge a little more. That makes sense. But then, but stopping there, like if you have a customer that is high profile, high risk, and gets attacked a lot and gets large attacks, that's not a free service. That's not an included service. That is something that, I mean, if they're getting 100 gig attacks or 50 gig attacks because they're doing whatever, they should pay for that, because somebody's got to pay for that bandwidth. You do, Mr. ISP. So and that's part of it. It's one thing to be nice. It's another thing to cause harm to yourself. And that the other thing is, like, are you equipped to have this kind of attack traffic coming into the network and not affect other customers? Because that's the work. Okay, you're trying to save this one guy. Maybe he's paying you X amount, and it's a medium-sized customer. If he takes down 100 small customers and they leave, was he worth it? So and that's where the do you have the ability to push the attack off your network, like using the cloud or whatever? Then it's the application protection. Now that's a whole different thing. What you see a lot of times is these customers are going out and going to Cloudflare or Encapsula or whatever, and getting like a third-party web application firewall or proxy DDoS. All good services, they work. but
Right.
they're not really talking to the ISP. So if there's a dual vector attack, one on the application side and one on the network side, you're not talking to Cloudflare to see what's going on and work on for the customer. So, you know, I mean, not that it wouldn't get mitigated, but it's a you know, it's one step removed.
Right.
And if you've done it third party where you haven't even told told the ISP that you're using Cloudflare, the ISP doesn't care. So it's like, like you're like, oh, I'm down, and Cloudflare says I'm getting attacked, and they're like, well, we're not seeing anything. So
Yeah.
I mean, so that's part of the issue. So if you're so if you're going to embrace security services, DDoS especially, and other application stuff, applications where it's going, like the what I see in a trend, the DDoS mitigation on the network side, as everything goes more towards cloud and as a service, it will become a commoditized thing. Everyone's going to just assume that if you are buying service from me, an IP port, whatever, that is DDoS protected. If I'm buying cloud from you, the cloud is resilient. It's DDoS protected. So that's where it will be. I mean, that you'll build it into your price, but that will be protection.
Ultimately, protection, yeah.
But the application stuff will be customized, right? Because it depends on your application, where your customers are, what you're doing. And that's something that if you don't get into that, I mean, look, all these ISPs now are also noticing that they have to get into cloud access. They have to either get some cloud, cloud availability, either their own cloud, private cloud, or access to Amazon, or combination of the two, or whatever. And then do you protect it, right? Because if you don't figure that out, you have this customer that's paying you money that will pay you extra money. Now you're having to give it to someone else, right? And now you've lost control of that customer, right? Now, you know, because the more services you sell them, that's also stickiness to keep the customer with you. You know, so you know, I mean, did I miss anything, Alex? I mean, what else? I mean,
no, it's perfect. And you know, just to confirm that also, you know, Gartner came out with their SASE model, which is the Service Access Secure Edge model, where they're really pushing. Well, first of all, they're combining network and security functions into one, but they're really pushing the security edge to the cloud, right? So in that sense, you know, this is what we're talking about. Even DDoS protection at the application layer really is being pushed towards the cloud. So ISPs do have to get engaged, and they have to get involved in that.
Yeah.
Right.
And Alex, you mentioned this earlier. We have 2 topics left. When you talked about DIY earlier, and just the overall challenges of DIY and productization of DDoS protection.
Right. Well, you can throw that. You can throw that slide up with the funnel now. That we can show you that DIY. That's a big problem.
Yeah. So that we kind of touched on this a lot.
Kind of earlier.
Like trying to do this on your own is not as easy as it sounds, maybe, because as Zen and I both talked about this, it does require a lot of money. You have to have the budget to do it. You have to have the personnel, the skill set to do it. And maybe you have to have a business plan around that. It's no longer just a side thing, just a small feature that you have. Maybe has to be a little bit more strategic than that, right?
Well, the decision shouldn't be coming out of the engineering department. It should be coming out of the product department, and
exactly.
And it should be part of the roadmap of the thing, because traditionally that's where it was, because it was a sunk cost of the network.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's part of, it's like your car insurance, right? I mean, it's you just kind of, it's car cost. So
so instead of DIY, that takes us to why Nexusguard? All the amazing.
Why not?
Yeah.
I mean, asshole.
Yeah. So, just a quick plug before we go into Q&A, right, Josie?
Right. Yeah. This will be our last slide before we get into some of the questions that we have.
Right. So we talked about all these challenges and the ways to mitigate attacks and everything. But I think that because of that specific requirement that ISPs have, or lack thereof, not having resources, the big budgets that large telcos have, and the personnel and everything. I think that a managed service provider that focuses on DDoS is what's needed, and I think that's the niche that Nexusguard is really hitting hard. There's no one else that is a MSSP, managed security service provider focused on DDoS for ISPs. There really isn't one, where you leverage not just the expertise of an Nexusguard that's been doing this since 2008, but also the infrastructure that was laid out for years, and you got 2.24 terabits network for scrubbing specifically. So and it's really like I like to say this, Zen doesn't like it, but I'll say it anyway. It's a McDonald's franchise model. You're not gonna go out there and start a burger shop if you have the blueprint for success. You know what I mean? So why start from scratch?
McDonald's in the 50s and the 60s, is it that McDonald's or this McDonald's?
This McDonald's.
They were higher quality back then.
With the menu on the touch screen. That's the Nexusguard today. I mean, really, in all seriousness, why start from scratch, and why hire a bunch of people, that in order to build your own SOC and everything? Why don't you leverage what we already have and build a DDoS practice, not just with network layer protection, but layer 7 protection that comes with WAF and protection of an application, HTTPS website, whatever, and it comes with all the bells and whistles from day one. It comes with the threat intelligence that we have, all the collaterals, white papers, and everything that you can white label. So I think there is an answer to the challenge that we laid out here in this webinar.
Yeah.
Hopefully you give us a chance to talk about it.
I'll add one thing
you
to
would
that
add
as well.
some closing remarks?
Yeah. So what I would say also as well is that we've seen customers try to do this themselves, where they go out and they buy the gear, they go buy 3 different hardware providers, they try to put it all together. So now they're becoming a portal developer. They're becoming they're doing API software to tie everything, and it's not their gear. And so we've seen people spend a bunch of money, and 18 months later, they still don't have a product that they can put in front of a customer that works. So they're still in beta because it's not their core competency. They run networks. They don't run they're not a security product. So that's part one. So time to market is a thing. So you do something you something like ours where we've already got the portal built. And so basically, like what Nexusguard did, we built this for ourselves, and we while we were selling. Sorry. And then I hit mute. So we took what we built for ourselves as a managed service provider to manage multiple tenants, take care of have a SOC running in there, open tickets, do the whole thing. And we said, hey, we're basically selling this platform to ISPs, something that you'd have to probably build on your own. And it lends itself to it gives your customers their own portal, gives customers the ability to see all the,
the dashboard
dashboard, and then like reports, monthly reports, automatic monthly reports, so that you can see what's happening, stuff you don't get from your current ISP, right? 9 times out of 10, you ask a customer like, oh, we got attacked. Well, how big was the attack? Oh, it was like 40 gigs. How do you know? Well, the ISP told us, the guy in the SOC told us. Really? You see a graph? No. Okay. So I mean, and that's the thing. Like there's so time to market, not having to do it all yourself, and then like Alex said, it's turnkey to the point that the product's already there, and you have a SOC. So instead of hiring your own guys, so let's say you go buy one of the regular guys. And all these other hardware companies, they're great. I mean, their stuff works, but how's it going to work, right? I mean, it's like I can get like a Lamborghini, and you put it, with me versus one of those NASCAR races or whatever, and I'm going to lose because I don't know how to drive the car well. And that's the point. Like, who's going to be driving the car for you? We've got guys in our SOC that are doing DDoS attacks daily, right? So they're trained, they understand, and that's an extension of the service. So you're day one. It's not like you got your guy in there that went to like a 2-hour training course. It's got a little certificate, and he's like, oh yeah, I do DDoS. No, yeah, you've got Nexusguard there that's taking care of it, and then working with your team, like as an extension of your team, rather than you going hiring a bunch of people. So it's what we found is that nobody's been catering to this aspect of the market, and that's an issue. So this is a challenge. Like ISPs are doing it; they're doing it themselves. They're getting burned. They're getting gun shy. They got a solution, it didn't work. Not that the solution was bad; they just wasn't implemented right. They didn't know how to run it. Right. So I mean, and nothing worse than going to your boss and saying, "Yeah, we spent $1 million for some paperweights," because they're still. You ask them, like, so what are you guys doing?
We have actually seen that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's still no routing. Like you didn't need to buy $1 million arbor to
didn't even take it out of a box.
Yeah. Because they don't know what to do. They don't know what they're doing. And so, it's great. I mean, you can buy the industry leader in hardware, whatever, but we don't feel that it's a hardware solution. We feel that it's a people solution. It's an intelligence solution, and it's something that you need to like approach kind of as like you're providing a service, and if it's not your core competency, we can help it become one of your competencies. But are you really going to wait 3 years to become, or do you want to start making sure you don't lose revenue now, right? And that's what we solve, right? These ISPs are our targets. They're becoming obsolete every day, right? Because if you ask Bezos, there won't be a need for any of these ISPs. You don't need hosting. All you need is your little local ISP so you can get to the cloud, and that's all you need. All you need is Amazon, right? Or pretty soon you wouldn't even need them because you can have his little satellite feed coming down on his low orbit satellite, him and Elon, and then you're done. He's going to cut them out of the picture completely because you're going to just use them to go to his cloud, right? So so how do you stay relevant? How do you not become Blockbuster? And that is because they laughed at Netflix, and then pretty soon. I mean, what's a DVD? I don't even know.
I don't even know.
That's
VHS. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. So
Blu-ray.
Yeah, and that's truly that's the problem we solve, and that's why you need to monetize, because you can have great network, and that's awesome, but it's becoming a secondary thing. Like, of course you have a great network, but do you have all this other stuff I need?
Right.
So
let's do the Q&A.
Yeah, let's get to the Q&A. You guys are absolutely fantastic. You touched a lot of great points. I'm going to stop the share screen and get into. Hey guys, bigger blocks. Let's see. We have some Q&A here. Let's see. I got one already. I had some submitted to me in advance. And Alex, you touched on this earlier. What are the pros and cons of inline solution versus out of band solutions?
Well, I think inline is the best way I can describe this is kind of like a toll road, right? Like in Southern California, we have those where you have a transponder and you drive through it, and in real time, it knows that you've paid for it, so you can use the toll road, right?
Yeah.
But let's say, it requires face recognition, and it's checking the oil and the tires and everything, and making sure that you actually can get on the toll road, because they don't want anybody that's not supposed to be on it. But you need the processing power in order to vet that out, right? You can't just use any kind of machine. It has to be, very elaborate. It's expensive, high performance, and I think that's the con, I guess. The pros is that it's real time, and it's very low latency type of disruption to your traffic. But the con is that you can only do so much with that kind of processing power. So you're limited to the smaller size type of throughputs, right? So that's why even those type of appliance vendors, they sell a hybrid, or they promote a hybrid model as well, because you need both.
So Jolie, do you have that funnel thing? Can you put it up? We'll just show, because that actually illustrates it really well.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Let me just go back to that real quick.
And while you're pulling that, the out of band is really where you actually in the event of an attack, you just push everything to the side so that your network stays intact. You can still go out, but any type of attacks will hit a third-party infrastructure or device, and then it will get mitigated. So only the clean traffic comes back to your network. So there's pros and cons of, right.
So you want to, I'll just explain it real fast.
Go ahead.
So for in Alex's example, right? So down at the bottom, that's your 100 gig box that you bought. It's great. It's $1 million. It'll do 100 gigs of mitigation. But at the POP you're at, you only have 40 gigs upstream to your peers. And then if you look at the POP, so you've got your access routers, and you have your border routers, then you've got upstream transit that you're purchasing, then you have your peering with your other peers, and all in that's 40 gigs, and then you have the internet POP. So let's say DDoS comes in, 100 gig DDoS attack comes in. You have a 100 gig box, so you should be able to be just fine, right? You're in line, it's right there. The green, let's say, is the clean traffic that you want. If by the time if it all comes in and it converges and it's allowed to get there, then your box is useless because it won't be able to mitigate that attack because it's gotten clogged. Not anything's getting through. So you're basically that's why I was saying if you have out of band, you can still communicate with that box and do things. But if you don't have a strategy for the larger attacks, right? For a small attack, if you got 40 gigs and a 1 gig attack comes in, it'll come right through. It's fine. You're mitigated. Okay. But what we also see is that if attacker is motivated, they will increase the attack size to the amount of pipe that you have. They will keep increasing until they hit your limit because that's their goal. So so inline, there's nothing wrong with inline if you have the capacity, but if you don't, then you have that risk. So that's what we say true hybrid for ours. We will put a box in, but we also have it bundled with the global cloud, so that if whenever this gets to a point where it's danger that you're going to be saturating the POP, you're sending it away. You don't want the DDoS on your network anyway. You want it as far away from your network as possible, because it's like it's like inviting the devil to your house and then saying, well, I'll beat him up here. It's like, no. Yeah. Well, I'll beat him up down the street, or somewhere else, and then I'll have you guys beat him up for me, and that's fine. So, it's more bad things can happen if you're allowing the DDoS to converge, and where you're mitigating it is at the end of this funnel, like at your access layer. That's bad news. So anyway, it's that's just a limitation. Inline is good though. I mean, it will solve the problems for certain things. Application layer stuff, it's good.
This is great. We do have a lot more questions, and we are having another webinar on Wednesday, but I will get to one more. In this marketplace, we often hear a lot about companies who believe DDoS attacks can happen to everybody but them, right? Given this mentality, what areas do you think the so-called bad guys are focusing on?
I just pulled that on the threat. So
yeah, you talked about this earlier in the threat report.
But no, I mean, actually, one of the things that they're seeing with trends is that well, you're seeing gaming, you're seeing social media, you're seeing entertainment, because entertainment's like huge right now. So even these entertainment, like, what do they call it? OnlyFans and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of money being made on those sites. So anywhere you're making money, that is that's a target, right? So and like I said, it depends on the motivation. If it's like election wise, somebody's probably paying that person to do it. What's that? You might be paid to do it, but it's politically motivated. Like the attacker might not be doing it for whatever reason, but either he's DDoS for hire, or and it's either you're upset at somebody, Starbucks messed my name up and they spit in my latte, I'm DDoS on their site, right? I mean, whatever, somebody they get upset, or it's competitive, right? So in the gaming space, you see that happen when they want to steal each other's market share or customers for the day. So if everyone's betting on the Super Bowl, if I knock down my competitor, the bettors still need to bet, so they're gonna most likely come to me, and so I'm gonna win. So I might DDoS my competitor. Regardless of what the reason is, it keeps going up. Like ransom, there's ransom is one of them, but that's, I think, sometimes a I don't know. I think that's kind of like a shot in the dark. I think when they get a hold of some site, or they especially with the malware, the ransomware, they're just hoping, they're throwing it out there like, hey, how much Bitcoin can you got? And then if somebody's like, oh, we'll pay you, then they're like, oh yeah, it was, oh, did we say 1 Bitcoin? We meant 7.
We meant 7, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's seriously, like they'll see how quickly you'll go get the money, and then they'll raise the price.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
What do you think, Alex? I mean, I think
No, I agree, and ISPs are attacking each other in certain countries. I won't say which countries, but I've seen it. I've seen where they call us and they say, I know who's attacking me. And not just the kids that are playing games, but ISPs actually are in that game as well.
And actually, what we're seeing is the reason that attacks towards ISPs are getting larger is because
you have a guess? Who's that?
Yeah, I do have a guess. The reason they're getting larger is because people are
getting DDoS.
Yeah, I'm getting DDoS right now.
DDoS?
Yeah, they're trying to attack the users. They're attacking the end users, and the attack. And so what they're doing is, well, we're going to hit the ISP harder so that we can knock out the user. Or the site or whatever. I mean, one of the stats that we saw was that there's about 23,000 attacks per day, about 16 every minute. So it's you gotta love the word. Okay.
Hi.
Oh boy. Alex, you want to take the next one?
What was the question?
No, I think we have a couple more, but I know we're kind of over our hour.
Oh, we're over our time. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew this would happen. Let me stop share. For those still on, we are going to do this because we had so much attraction to this one. We're doing this again on Wednesday. So join us on Wednesday if you or your colleagues, or if you love this and you want more people to hear about this and hear about Nexusguard. Wednesday, we're going to do another webinar, 10 ways for CSPs to leverage DDoS services to attract new customers. This is going to be a lot of talking points that we discussed today, and we'll hit on some new topics. We kind of, if you've seen now, we try to bring in like current things going on in the news and implement that into real-time Nexusguard talk. So that's what we'll do on Wednesday. So
and if anybody sees this as a recording and they have questions, make sure you submit them to us, and hopefully we'll get to answer those live on Wednesday.
Yes, that would be awesome. I would see, like, we even have one more question.
I know folks in Europe weren't able to participate because it's like 3 a.m. there. So
we had one more question. Where are your scrubbing centers?
Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, so we have them strategically placed today in areas where most DDoS attacks originate. And so that's Asia, Europe, and North America. We have 3 in the United States, Los Angeles, San Jose, and Miami. And in Europe, we have London and Amsterdam. And in Asia, we have 2 in Hong Kong, 1 in Singapore, and 1 in Taiwan.
Fantastic. It's great. And again, to hit on Alex's point earlier, for those that are part of the PTC conference, our networking lounge is up and live throughout the whole conference. You can schedule a meeting directly on our networking lounge site. Sign up for the next webinar, which is on Wednesday, and you can also sign up for trivia tomorrow night. We have a lot of people signed up. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we hope to get as many people as we can in that. And then again, for those that did register for today's webinar, your name will be entered in a drawing to win an iPad, I believe is what we're giving away, or some other fun things.
Yes, yeah, yes.
iPad. Okay.
iPad and such, sure.
And such. We've got a lot of great tchotchkes that we would normally give out in person. Really good stuff that you would see at our booth at a real trade show. So maybe some of that, I don't know. And then we also were giving away an iPad for the winner of trivia. So lots of fun things in store. Zen and Alex, you gentlemen were amazing. Thank you so much for your DDoS knowledge and all things DDoS mitigation. It was a pleasure. And everyone, thanks again for joining us from all across the world. We appreciate you being on here with us. And yeah, again, if you have any questions, if you want to schedule a meeting, just let us know and we'll be in touch.
Thanks so much,
thank
guys.
you.
You guys, bye.
Have a good rest of the
Bye-bye.
day.
Thank you.
Okay.